Hello and a huge welcome to Alvo Minerals Managing Director Rob Smakman, who joins me from Melbourne. Rob, how are you?
Oh, I'm really well, Eleanor. How are you?
I'm well, really well. Should we jump straight into it?
Sure, let's go.
So, who is Alvo Minerals?
Who is Alvo? Alvo, I think, like all startups, is a company where ideas and experience meet opportunity. And when I say that, I mean we always have thought that Brazil's a really underexplored country, and we also think that the experience of having myself and Bo Nichols, one of my fellow directors, who've had extensive experience in country, really lowers that barrier to entry. So the idea was that Brazil's underexplored. The idea is that we've got a lot of experience in operating over there. And I think when the opportunity came to look at the asset, which is the Palmeropolis or the Palma asset that was owned by the government, those two things really combined. And at the time, the base metals market wasn't looking as strong as it is today. So it took a bit of a punt on that side of things. But really it was a confluence of ideas and experience meeting opportunity.
Alvo is listing on the ASX in late September. What makes Alvo a unique investment compared with other listed copper zinc explorers?
Yeah, look, there's not a lot of other listed copper zinc explorers operating in Brazil that have got a resource. In fact, there's none. There's not many in Australia either. And I think, recently you've seen a lot of new listings in Australia on assets that are focused in country. And that's been a fantastic way for exploration to continue domestically. But at the end of the day, there is an end date to COVID at some point, and I think the opportunity that Alvo brings is to explore for some of those base metals in a new frontier, I guess. And of course, we've got an existing resource on the project, and we've got a district scale opportunity to add to that. So, yeah, we really think there's a good story there.
Speaking of opportunity, your flagship asset is the Palma project in central Brazil. What are the key highlights of the project?
So, first of all, Palma project was an asset that was discovered by the Geological Survey of Brazil in the 1970s. They did most of their work in the 1980s, and then have basically, there's not been a lot of exploration since. VMS style deposits are generally polymetallic, and in our case, that's true as well. So we have copper, zinc, some lead, silver, and there's going to be some gold associated with it, but we're not sure. It's near surface, they're high grade, and the potential for these VMS to cluster is something that hasn't really been tested yet. And I think that's exactly where we think the project can go. It has the potential to find new prospects close to the ones that we know exist, and we're hoping that they're high grade and near surface as well.
So you've just touched on VMS. Investors are very interested in high impact exploration. Alvo controls a large land parcel in a rich VMS district ripe for discovery. What are your highest priority targets and why?
Yeah, look, so the VMS typically, that style of mineralisation has the opportunity to cluster, and by controlling the entire district, or 90% of the district, we've got the potential to deliver to investors and to shareholders on our three-pronged strategy, and that is upgrade, expand, and discover. What does that mean? So upgrade is we're going to take our known inferred resources at C1 and C3, and we're going to upgrade them into indicated category. Indicated is the ability to then take those resources and turn them into to consider economic studies over the top of them. Expand, which is the second leg of our strategy, is to look for additional tonnage on C1 and C3 along strike, down dip, and potentially parallel zones, even down plunge. We'll also include C4 in that group, and C4 historically was a little deeper than C1 and C3, a little lower grade. But we think with ground geophysics, we've got the opportunity to look for some higher copper regions within that particular prospect. But the one that really drives me as an exploration geologist is discovery, and that is taking the learnings from C1 and C3 and C4 and trying to apply that across the belt. And because all of these deposits that they've found so far were discovered essentially by geological mapping and geochemistry, the ones that are slightly buried below cover haven't been targeted. And so we'll be using EM or electromagnetic surveys to try and find those conductive bodies at depth and drill them. And that's where I think we'll be able to deliver on all parts of the exploration story.
It sounds like such a huge opportunity. So what do the next 6 months look like for Alvo Minerals?
Yeah, well, listing's obviously front of mind, but establishing the team and getting on the ground and starting to drill, I mean, that's going to be the real priority for me. I'm heading there soon. I'm not exactly sure when the government will let us leave, but I'll be on the ground in Brazil on and around our listing time. And the idea is to build the team, get the rigs on the ground, and start delivering on the promises that we've made to investors.
Tell me a bit about the team and specifically your experience operating in Brazil.
Yeah, look, so it's a small team at the moment, and that's something that we'll once we have listed and got the money from investors, we'll start to build. I've built teams in Brazil before for exploration, production, advanced, taking projects from first rock chips through to mining. So my background was I took Crusader, the old company that I started with in the early 2000s, to Brazil, looking really for, I guess, Proterozoic gold. At the time in Australia, the discovery of Tropicana really led a changing of, I guess, mentality around exploration in Australia. We couldn't find many prospects like that in Australia and started looking elsewhere. So we took Crusader to Brazil ostensibly to look at for Proterozoic gold, and stumbled eventually across the project called Borborema, which is now in the hands of Big River. And so my background was really, I spent over 10 years in country, learnt the language and tried to understand a little bit about the culture and the way of operating over there. And the other non-exec director, Bo Nichols, Bo's an experienced geologist as well. We actually met when we were consulting in Eastern Europe together, and he's spent over 8-9 years in Brazil leading coffee mining as their principal consultant. So he's seen a lot of prospects and projects that I haven't. And we've covered a range of different commodities, from iron ore to gold to base metals to phosphate, rare earths, you name it. We've seen a lot in Brazil, and I think that's forming the basis of the core of our team. So
how do you see copper's role in the clean energy transition playing into the future development of your projects?
Copper, to me, is one of the fundamental base metals, and it's such a huge market that we're quite irrelevant in the sense of what difference it will make. I just know that by positioning ourselves, looking to focus in on the exploration for copper, we're in a market that's going to be a solid one for the next years going forward. And I think Brazil has not many people know that over 80% of Brazil's energy comes from hydro, and so automatically you're starting with a renewable or a sustainable energy source. And I think the electrification of the markets around the world just means that copper is always going to grow, and you really can't look in a better place than Brazil for something like that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rob. We're so excited to see where this project takes you.
Thank you, Eleanor. It's been a pleasure, and looking forward to the next steps as well.